Welcome back, Coaster Nerd fans. So today I'm going to be talking about the most iconic roller coaster in the world that everyone basically knows about, and that is Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Um, this was my first Giga Coaster, and honestly, the first time I rode it, I didn't really think it was much. I was like, it's okay. But the more and more I rode it, which I got a total of 8 rides on Millennium Force over the 2 days that I was there, I just gained a reputation of just loving it and liking it more. Even the more I think about it, the more I really like Millennium Force and have more respect for it when it's done for the industry. Anyway, going up that cable lift, this is by far one of the fastest lifts in the world. Besides Maverick's LIM launch lift, the cable lift on Millennium Force is super fast and it's a lot of fun. After that, you hit the top height of 305 feet and you go down at an 80-degree angle, going about 95 miles per hour into that overbank turn, and honestly, that overbank turn I grayed out on. So the people calling Millennium Force forceless, it's definitely not forceless. It has quite a bit of forces, and I've ridden it during the summer when it was hauling, so yeah. Then after that, you go into the first airtime hill after banking low on the ground. Honestly, I was kind of disappointed with these. You do get a little bit of floater, not too much, but it was very decent floater compared to what I was expecting going into it. But again, not as much as you're going to get on any other ride at Cedar Point. It's probably, you get more than you do on Gatekeeper, but you definitely get less than what you do on Magnum. So after that, you go in, you turn to the right, go into an overbank turn, which that also was pretty forceful, not too forceful like the first overbank, but it was definitely in one of the more intense moments. After that, you go into your next overbank to the left. After that, you go to the smaller airtime hill, which does produce a little bit more airtime into the where the camera is, into a tunnel, which is actually over a pathway going into Frontier Town. And after you go through that tunnel, you go through the bunny hop hill, which that has the most amazing airtime on the ride. After that, go to the right into an overbank turn, and the ride finishes out. Overall, I thought the ride was pretty smooth for being 19 years old. It's running as well as it sounds like it has been since 2000, and Cedar Point's really kept it up. On top of that, Millennium Force actually has a really awesome soundtrack, and it's by far one of my favorite soundtracks. Here is a listen to that soundtrack. With that soundtrack, it really sets the mood in the station for the whole ride experience you're about to feel on the first ever full circuit Giga Coaster. And it might not be the best in the park with Raptor and Maverick and Steel Vengeance and Top Thrill Dragster being a tad bit better. It's still by far one of the most iconic roller coasters in the world. If you go up to anyone and be like, hey, name one roller coaster? They're either going to name something from Disney or they're going to name Millennium Force. From the iconic commercials from the early 2000s and the whole thing that Cedar Point did with it being the first Giga Coaster and getting as many people out there to ride it, it's just overall been a massive hit for Cedar Point. Plus, if you, no matter when you go, Millennium Force majority of the time has a very decent line. When you have rides like Raptor, well, besides still Vengeance, because that's still pretty new as this is being recorded, Millennium Force still always has a very long line. The other rides that have a long ride that have been open about 20 years or so is Top Thrill Dragster, and that's if it's open and it's not done for maintenance or it's too windy. But all the other rides have pretty short lines. By Millennium Force is still, after 20 years, still packing in the lines, and especially for Cedar Point's 100th season and Millennium Force turning 20 years old, I do think Millennium Force will have pretty long lines. But anyway, that's going to do it for the review. My rating of Millennium Force out of our Coaster Nerd ranking is going to be a 8. I'm saying an 8 because it's definitely not a perfect ride, but for what it started and what it does, it really did it well, and it really kicked off the coaster wars from the early 2000s, and it's given us many great gigas, and it also got B&M involved in bringing us Fury 325. So, in that regards, for what it does and the humble beginnings of the Giga, by far,